Hello again, everyone. This is Chris here. That's Robert Harding, and this is the Citizen Sports Weekly. We are recording this video on May. See, close.
Going back in time when there was snow on the ground and we were freezing.
It says they're still listening.
Right.
It's not really much different. Just the precipit's coming down in rain, not snow. It's still a little chilly. Today's May 1st. Happy May Day.
May Day.
Yes, back in the days of the 80s, you'd see these parades through Red Square for May Day with the missiles and everything. And if you were a kid, it kind of scared you a little bit, like,
As it turns out, it's also National Loyalty Day.
Really? There we go. Anyway, I'm loyal, Robert, you know that. So
We're loyal co-hosts.
anyways, we're back with another fun-filled video, 2 topics. And our first one is something I wrote a column about. It's in today's
Shameless plug.
Thursday's Citizen here in Auburn. It's online, auburnpub.com, which he's responsible for. So if you have any complaints, you can file it with him. But he does a good job with the web. He does an excellent job. No jokes there. And it's about cheerleading. A couple days ago, the New York State Board of Regents approved cheerleading as a competitive sport in New York State. So if you think back to the days, way back when, from the 40s through I think as much as the 1990s, cheerleaders were looked at. I said perky and pretty. They were there to cheer on the local high school teams and bring up pep and create spirit. I guess that was the word, spirit. But times have changed. Cheerleading is different. It is very athletic now. There's more intricate routines and stunts, and you have to have some strength to be able to do some of these things, and agility. And it's not your grandmother's cheerleading, that's for sure, or your mother's either. It's definitely changed, and I think that the New York State, the Education Department, the Board of Regents did the right thing in making it a sport. And actually, New York State has already been holding some competitions the last couple of years. They knew this was in the works. I guess the last 5 years they've been working on this, and they've got it done. And I'm happy about it. I mean, I'm glad because 15 years ago I remember getting into a debate with a caller when I was sports editor about whether cheerleading was a sport or activity, and I said it was an activity. Well, I've changed. My angle on it or my opinion about it has changed. It is a sport. I've seen more about it, learned more about it, and it is definitely a sport. And these girls and some boys, there are some boys that do participate in cheerleading at the high school level, deserve their chance to have actually be a real sport and be able to participate and do that. So, what are your feelings, Robert? This is going to be good, folks.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the designation, and I have my reasons why. Competitive cheerleading has been going on for years now. I mean, it's been televised on ESPN. There's college competitions.
Yeah.
Walt Disney World, I believe, hosts competitions. These aren't. This isn't a new. This isn't a new thing. Competitive cheerleading has been around for quite some time. My issue with declaring it a interscholastic sport, I mean, this doesn't change anything in how competitive cheerleading will be delivered. It's still going to be the same. It does affect, it does help them with funding and certain safety requirements and standards for coaching and things like that. Which that's all good. That's certainly necessary. But my problem with labeling it a sport is, there are other activities, shall we say, that certainly require a level of athleticism that might not be that activity might not be considered a sport, but you're required to have some sort of skill, some sort of agility. I've had this a long debate on Facebook about this over the past couple days. I mentioned Cirque du Soleil. Not a sport, but they look for gymnasts, they look for people who have the skills, who can do these acrobatic stunts and everything else. And there's elements of that in competitive cheerleading, but I think it falls short of really being an official sport. I don't think we're going to see it in the Olympics anytime soon. I think it's a great activity. Hey, anything that, kids are involved in, extracurricular activities are great. But, in my mind, it's just not a sport. It certainly, requires skill, and, I've heard a lot about, gymnastics-like skill. Yeah, that's true, but it's not gymnastics. I don't think we're going to see cheerleaders who can go out and, perform balance beam routines and pommel horse routines and all this other stuff. It certainly requires an element of skill, to perform flips, to the strength needed to hold up, for the pyramid and these kinds of things. But, to me, it just, falls short of, what at least we consider, in the traditional sense and in the modern sense, of sport.
Well, I agree with you a little bit on that, but ultimately, you can score these routines like gymnastics. There are scores, and to me, when you have scoring and points, there's a winner and a loser. And if you have a winner and a loser, then to me, it's a sport. And like I said, it's changed a lot the last few years. And like I said, I think New York State, again, 35 other states have already classified it as sport. So it's not like New York is the pioneer here or one of the first. They're one of the last, actually. So, we're going to disagree about this, and I understand where you're coming from. And like I said, till about 10 years ago, I really felt the same way, that it's not a sport, it's an activity. But, my opinion's changed. So.
Yeah. Well, I think a majority of people are where you are now, where, maybe years ago they thought it wasn't a sport, or maybe they did think it's a sport, and, they, most people at least, we've had a poll on auburnpub.com about this.
Yeah.
We've asked the question on Facebook. We've been getting feedback, and most people say it's a sport. I don't mind being in the minority here, saying that, I think it falls short of that. To me, it certainly requires an element of skill, but to me, it falls more into a performance category, almost like a sports entertainment, if you will.
Like pro wrestling.
Well, to some degree. Look, with pro wrestling, there's athleticism and, many other skills that are required with that. And, people might laugh at that, but, yes, the outcome is, prearranged. However, to actually deliver this, to deliver a match, you need skills, you need athletic ability. And so, but, I don't think we're going to be calling pro wrestling a sport anytime soon. And that's really where I stand on it. I'm certainly not. I believe that it should exist.
Right.
I think it's proven that it's a great activity. Involves a lot of boys and girls throughout the country. Really at this point, even at the college level. But I think it just falls short of what's required to be a sport.
I have a feeling you might be seeing some high school cheerleaders at Bills games this year. Seriously.
Well, since they
I'm not joking, because there are no Jills now.
Since they don't have their own team because of some other issues,
lawsuits and things. Yeah.
They might be relying on some Western New York cheerleading units.
I know that in the past, Syracuse University for basketball, when the students are on break and the cheerleaders are on break, they have used local high school cheerleaders to come in and cheer. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills did the same thing, to provide some type of spirit type entertainment at the games. Yeah. So, well, we have another topic to discuss, and this is the one that's been getting the lion's share of attention nationally the last 5 days, and that is Donald Sterling, the owner for now of the Los Angeles Clippers, who was I guess I wouldn't say caught, but he said some very bigoted, racist things, and it was recorded, and the recordings came out thanks to Deadspin.com, and to the NBA's credit, Adam Silver, his first couple months as commissioner, came down very hard. And I'll be honest, I think he didn't have much of a choice. I think maybe I don't know what his original plan was, but I think talking to players, engaging the national media, that if he didn't come down really hard, that there was going to be a revolt, that players were going to boycott games. And ultimately, you can't have that. And he had to come down very hard, and justifiably so. He did. Donald Sterling deserves that punishment. He deserves to have his team taken away from him. There's no place for these opinions or views in the NBA or any major professional sport or in life in general. It's like we've discussed about different things when we talked about Michael Sam, coming out and possibly being the first gay NFL player, or Jason Collins being the first actively open gay NBA player. It's 2014. It's time to put away these antiquated views about minorities and homosexuals and other ethnic or religious groups that we can't have these today. It's just, we shouldn't. It's not good, and we need to look at people for who they are and not what their skin color is or their religion or their sexual orientation. And the NBA did the right thing. We'll see what happens, whether Sterling's going to challenge this. I have a feeling he's going to. I mean, this guy basically made his original money as an ambulance chaser in LA back in the 60s and 70s before going into real estate. And I have a hunch he's not going to take this quietly. I have a feeling he's going to protest and try to stop this. So we'll see what happens. But I think the NBA did the right thing. Adam Silver did the right thing. And I think the players appreciate what Adam Silver did. And I think now it's time to forget about this, move on, and get the playoffs going. And maybe the Clippers can make a run to the NBA Championship Series. It'd be kind of funny, as you know, this franchise started as the Buffalo Braves.
That's right.
Originally from Buffalo, and they've never really done much of anything. And it's kind of cool to see a team that really has no history of success being successful. So, what's your take on the whole thing, Robert?
I agree with you. I think Adam Silver made the right move by banning him for life from the NBA, and he did levy a fine. Look, the situation is, I know that there's some people out there who say that, these were private remarks, and that they shouldn't be applied or held against him, and you know what, that might be fine. You want to make comments in private, that's fine, but this was recorded just like it would be if it was a television interview, a radio interview, and it was released to the public. Guess what? Those remarks ain't private.
No, they ain't private anymore.
And
No.
And when you say these things, and with his history, there's housing discrimination issues, there's
sexual harassment suits,
past issues with him, and these things all pile up, and eventually they come back to bite you, and it finally did with Donald Sterling. The NBA I think will take care of business. Donald Sterling will certainly fight this. It seems like he's already kind of taken the first step by saying that the Clippers aren't for sale.
Right.
That he's really going to try and hold his ground and see what he can salvage here. But I think for the betterment of the league, and Silver did the right thing, and I think Donald Sterling has to do the right thing. I think he has to realize the error of his ways and remove himself and just sell the team.
You're going to get $1 billion. I mean, he's 81 years old. I mean, you're not going to live forever. Take your $1 billion and move on. And the thing is, I think some people kind of forget here that he has freedom of speech. Well, yeah, he does, but there's also the responsibility of when you say something that you have to own up to it and take responsibility for it. And freedom of speech means the government can't persecute you or prosecute you for what you're saying. This is a private business. The NBA is a private business, okay? And also, their teams are franchises. I mean, they call it a franchise. You think about it. If you owned a fast food restaurant and you were making racist remarks or anti-homosexual remarks or something, the company that offers you the franchise has that right to take it back if you don't live up to their expectations. Okay, so the NBA is the same way, basically, and they feel that this guy is hurting their business, and guess what? They're going to take the team back and they're going to sell it to somebody else, and that's the way it is. So, anything else you want to add, Robert?
No, I think that covers it.
All right.
I think we covered 2 hot topics.
We did. This was fun. So, anyways, thanks again for watching, folks. Please share the links, and until next week, we'll see you then. Take care.